Hello, my name is Dennis Algier, and I'm pleased to introduce the Living Legends of Westerly. This video features reflections by extraordinary men and women who have made legendary contributions to Westerly over the last 50 years. These dynamic individuals will long be remembered for their contributions to town government, nonprofit organizations, preservation efforts, and society as a whole, while inspiring others along the way. The Living Legends of Westerly are public figures, groundbreakers, heroes, business leaders, veterans, and other notable senior citizens who have positively impacted others and collectively improved the quality of life in our town.
My name is Henry Nardone. I am 96 years old, will be 97 this June, and I have lived in Westerly all my life.
My name is Willis A. Edgecombe, Dusty nickname. I'm 95 years old.
My name is Chuck Royce. I am 80 years old.
My name is Angie Smith. I grew up in Pawcatuck, Connecticut, went to school at St. Michael's and also Stonington High School, and I came to the wonderful town of Westerly when I got married to the most wonderful man of my life. And he had built a new house and we moved in, and I've been here ever since.
My name is Mary Jane Patriarca DeMeo. I came to Westerly in 1965. My husband is a dentist, and he made his office here in Westerly.
My name is Jim McCormick, and I am 88 years old.
My name is Larry Hirsch. I'm an antique, but I feel young.
Well, Reverend Joshua McClure, and I'm 87 years old. And I came to Wesley in 1981.
Hi, my name is Tom O'Connell. I'm 79 years old.
I'm Hatsie Mort. I'm an old crock. I'm 78, 77 years old. I've lived in Westerly all those years.
I'm Elias Treffus, also known as Louis Treffus. I'm 90 years old, and I was born in Westerly, and I've been here every day of my life.
My name is Ed Liguori. I'm 86, born in Westerly, Rhode Island, lived here all my life.
My name is Mafalda Diorio, but everybody calls me Muffy. I've been living in Westerly for over 50 years. Came because my husband got a job in North Stonington, and we settled in Westerly.
Hi, I'm Joe Cugini, and I've lived in Westerly all my life, and I'm 89 years old.
I'm Betty Cugini. I have been here off and on. I was here to do my junior and senior year in high school and met Joe Cugini here. Then I came back again in '52 to teach in Westerly, and in 1955 we were married, and I've lived here ever since.
My name is Patricia Douglas. I'm 80 years old, and I've lived in Westerly with my husband and my two daughters for 42 years. We moved here in 1977.
Hi, my name's Sam Azanaro. I am 76 years old. I was born on 76 Oak Street, 1943. I've lived in Westerly for the better part of my life, not counting 2.5 years I lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
I was active on the school board for 16 years. I was a member of the Rhode Island State Board of Education for 19 years. I was on the hospital board for over 30 years.
I'm a veteran of World War II with 28 months of combat duty in the Pacific. I was so close to dying one time I was frozen. There was a suicide coming right for the boat. I went to the dentist one day, and she was from Australia. And I said, you know, if it wasn't for your people, I wouldn't be sitting here. Because they were the ones that shot the plane out of the air. I was on an Australian boat.
It was a big deal to be the first town council president and be a woman, because there never was one in all the years since, 1668 or something like that. And the fact that that did happen gave an opportunity to other women to think beyond what they naturally would say, oh, I'll never make it, but all of a sudden you do.
I was a businessman, and I had 2 retail kitchen cabinet showrooms and a manufacturing plant. And in 1976, I heard God say, no more of this, you're going to do ministry. And then ended up in Westerly. Well, I was a pastor in Westerly at Pleasant Street Baptist Church for 32 years.
I've been involved in the Westerly Town Council when I worked to preserve the Avondale Preserve. Knowing that I prevented 104 condominiums, I can't help but be gleeful every time I think about what could have been there. Preservation and animals is what I'm really interested in.
Most of my life I spent on Mccormick Beach working in the family business, which was the Lanny Beach Casino.
I've been on the Westerly Veterans Memorial Committee since it started in 2000, and recently I've been chairman of the committee, and we have done several things to improve the memorial. When I see the Veterans Memorial, every time I go by there, I feel proud to be an American and live in Westerly.
I've been involved in government, let's say, for 39 years. Watching every meeting, looking at everything, and I served on the town council for 8 terms. So that would be 16 years.
Well, the only other place I've lived is in Providence, Rhode Island, and because there were lots of things to do in Providence, and I enjoyed that, the theater and all. But Westerly is just wonderful.
Westerly is one of a kind. Everybody in Westerly knows everybody else in Westerly and treats them as though they were family. It's the most congenial town I have ever been in.
My favorite thing to do in Westerly is visit the people and see what I can do to help folks.
If I was describing Westerly to a friend who had never been here before, I would tell them unabashedly it had everything. You can arrive by train in the wonderful Amtrak in the fabulously beautiful building. You can walk through downtown and see all the excellent historic architecture and participate in the downtown vibe. You can get on the river, and then you can show up at the shore. We have a shoreline community, we have a wonderful, vibrant downtown, and we have literally everything you would need.
Geographically, it's the most beautiful place there is. I mean, the beaches, the downtown. Where do you find a downtown that's, the integrity is still there, the buildings are still there, the Pawcatuck River is still there, the joint thing between Pawcatuck and Stonington and Westerly?
Well, first of all, the friendliness, and it's a well-kept town. If you wanted to move here, taxes are wonderful.
It has so much to offer for our community, and for free, a lot of events, which I'm sure a lot of different towns don't have.
I was living in Charleston and wasn't very happy, so I got the hell out of town. And I come to Westerly and I had 5 cents in my pocket, and I was probably 18 years old. And it's the best place I could have ever picked in my life.
It's a place where friends are very close, and those people that you meet for the first time become friends.
It's a very family-oriented community, and I found that to be that there were so many homes and people live in these homes, and they go in generations and over. And I say it's just a great place for families.
Westerly is a New England blue-collar town, basically, that was based on industry, the granite company, and textiles.
Westerly is pleasant. And one of the most pleasant things in Westerly is the water. I love the Westerly water. I've been all over the world, my wife and I, and I've never tasted water that's sweet. I'm addicted to it.
Westerly is a good place to live, work, and play.
You have an extraordinary sort of very simple way of moving around here. You can go to Providence in 45 minutes. You can get on a train and be in New York in 2 hours. Most other New England towns do not have that combination.
The friendship that we made back 60 years ago are still here today. It's that spirit that I find in Westerly is so important.
The people are just wonderful. So many of the people that I know were born and brought up in Westerly, and they're just wonderful, wonderful people.
Westerly is one big, big family. We take care of each other.
When we first came here, it was stunning. It's so different than any other town. I would say the best way I could describe it is finding a jewel in the palm of your hand. That's what I think Westerly is.
We in Westerly have everything that a community could want, starting with our park, our library, our town hall, our police department, our ocean, which is second to none in this country, our fire districts, our ambulance corps, our airport, our railroad station. Everything you want in life to live for is here in Westerly.
I think my fondest memory is when I bought my airplane, and I enjoyed it for 30 years. And it was a F-33A Bonanza.
Living at the beach, having cabanas at the beach. All our kids grew up at the beach. So our connection with the beach in Westerly, probably the finest memory of my whole life.
My fondest memory is finding my first house here in Weekapaug, which I bought in 1988, and that began the journey, and I have loved this area ever since.
My fondest memory living in Westerly was probably coming back to Westerly from Korea and making it.
My fondest memory of living in Westerly is being downtown Westerly in the 50s, having on a Friday night hordes of people going through, meeting everybody, enjoying everybody. The businesses downtown were wonderful. There was a lot of life and spirit in downtown Westerly.
My fondest memory of living in Westerly is going to the many, many things that happen in our town and being able to be part of them and enjoying every minute of them.
My fondest memory is coming with my family to the beaches at Mccormick.
My favorite memory is the transition of people. The people, when I came here, there were people living in substandard houses and all of this stuff. And it just wasn't something that I could deal with. So we said, okay, we're going to change it. And I had a vision of where people could be, not where they were. And that was my whole thing. And that's my favorite, seeing people grow. To this day, I still see some of the kids. They've grown up. It's amazing.
My fondest memory is my childhood house, fields behind our house, where I lived at the brook with the rock, and that's where I spent my childhood. I loved it down there. It was in the back fields.
The fondest memory? Fondest memory for me is that my family had that amusement area down the beach, and I worked it, and it was fun at times. Sometimes it was not.
My favorite memory would be graduating Westerly High School with my fellow classmates.
My fondest memories of living in Westerly is just going to the beach every day. When the children were small, we just went to the beach and had a wonderful time. And I still love the beaches.
My fondest memory probably is working with the youth in Westerly.
Actually, my fondest memory is many things. Basically the people and the difference from every corner of the town. How they have different ideas, but somehow or other it all seems to work together and gel.
My fondest memory is just living in Westerly.
My favorite place is the Weekapaug end of Mccormick. We had a cabana next door to Tommy Pucci, who was the son of the owners, and his kids and our kids grew up at Seaside, and that kind of intimacy still prevails at Seaside Club.
My favorite place in Westerly is the Armory. The Armory is a great place to go to. They have many different things that they offer.
My favorite place in Westerly was, for 40 years, McCormick's department store on 8 to 14 Broad Street.
My favorite place in Westerly is 60 Granite Street, where I was raised, grew up with my mom and dad, and I remember vividly the 300th anniversary of Westerly and sitting on the front porch of 60 Granite Street and watching the parade go through with my mom and dad.
My favorite place in Westerly is perhaps Westerly Public Library and the park behind it. They're both nice to recreate in, obviously to read. I've done an awful lot of research for my books in the Westerly Public Library. Very nice place, very congenial people that work there.
My favorite place in Westerly is probably the North End, because I've seen such a transition in the North End from the time I first got here. And it's my favorite place. Every time I go to the North End, I say, boy, this is wonderful compared to what it was, you know.
My favorite place in Westerly is my backyard. It's got everything I ever wanted. Turkeys, deer, coyotes, birds, of course, barred owls, great horned owls, chickens, my gardens, my backyard, without a question.
My favorite place in Westerly is the sports fields, watching Twilight League in the past and Westerly High School teams.
Well, my favorite place in Westerly is still the beaches. But I spend a lot of time at the Westerly Senior Center playing bridge, so that's one of my favorite places. And of course, I'm very involved with my church, and I like that too.
My favorite place is the Watch Hill Beach, looking out at the lighthouse and just relaxing.
My favorite place in Westerly, I believe, would be the lighthouse. My favorite time is the winter and bringing coffee down and just sitting in the car and looking out at that beautiful ocean.
My favorite place is home, right there on the Watch Hill Road. I love it.
My favorite place in Westerly is Mccormick Beach.
I would say Dusty's Ice Cream.
Westerly's best kept secret is the beaches.
Westerly's best kept secret is, to me, it's the beaches, it's Mccormick, it's Watch Hill, it's Weekapaug.
Westerly's top secret has to be the physical beauty of Westerly and its surrounding villages.
It's not even a secret, but it used to be a secret, was the Watch Hill Flying Horse Carousel that my mother put together and discovered, and eventually it got put on the historical places.
Westerly's best kept secret for me is the downtown. The wonderful downtown that was not messed up through adverse or abusive development, and I think it is one of the sophisticated, smartest downtown that exists in all of New England.
I think Westerly's best kept secret is it's golden. It's just a great place to live, and especially being brought up here.
Westerly's best kept secret, maybe it isn't that best kept, but is a diversity of the people.
Best secret, as far as I'm concerned, is the amount of volunteers that we have.
I think Westerly's best kept secret is what we do for each other.
I think it's everything about Westerly. Although it's becoming more popular and people are getting to know it more, but before it was really the best kept secret.
Wesley's best kept secret is no longer a secret because everyone is finding out what a pristine place Westerly is. And we're also being more and more known as the soupy capital of the world.
Some of my favorite things to do in town is writing, and I do read at the public library, and I enjoy fishing as well.
There are 4 of us who've been going to breakfast every other Tuesday for the last 18 years, and we still do that today. So that's one of my favorite things, and it's amazing how quickly that 15 years has gone by.
My favorite thing is going to Berkeley Court and the Andrea.
Dancing is what I live for, and anytime there is an event that calls for dancing, you can be rest assured that I'll be there and enjoying it.
My favorite thing to do is reaching out to people in the town of Wesley and surrounding areas on WBLQ on Sunday mornings at 7:30 to 8 o'clock.
My favorite tradition in town is Shakespeare in the Park. It is an incredibly unique experience. What an opportunity to see Shakespeare done well.
My favorite thing to do is to tell the council and the manager that I am their worst nightmare.
We used to play double-deck rummy with Mario Solico and Tommy Galluccio. We used to play for a lousy $2 a game, and you would think you were playing for $20,000 a game. The cursing and the yelling that was going on.
Every Christmas was a nice time with the lights and the trim and the discussion about what would happen, and then later Santa Claus coming to town.
My favorite tradition in Westerly, growing up and now, is Thanksgiving. It's a chance for all the families to get together no matter where they be, they come together for Thanksgiving.
Well, some of my favorite events in town are the parades. The Columbus Day Parade and the Memorial Day Parade. I like attending those.
My favorite thing to do in Westerly is just enjoy the scenery and all the nice buildings which cannot be replaced architecturally.
I think my favorite tradition in Westerly is the closeness of the people. And we're all family oriented, so visiting in each other's houses and having dinner parties with our friends, that's what I really enjoy about Westerly.
What I think has changed the most in the 42 years that we've been here is development.
I think that Westerly has changed in its growth. When I first started with the credit union in Westerly, it was just a small credit union. Today it's one of the largest in the state.
I lived in a big, beautiful house on Granite Street, and then Granite Street became a commercial area, and we had to move. I think that was the biggest change in our lives.
I'd say the most changes in town are Granite Street and Franklin Street. All the new businesses and stuff, and the malls.
I know you can't stop progress, but I think we need to look more closely at it and put a more careful approach to it. Otherwise, we might lose the distinct uniqueness of the town.
Over time, what has changed the most in Westerly is the fact that you don't know all the people anymore, because there's more and more people coming for the first time to Westerly to enjoy.
Some of the things that have changed in Westerly are, for instance, you have areas that used to be farmland now have houses on them.
Mccormick has changed from the 60s and 70s to today. Is like someone turned the switch on the wall. The darkness is gone.
Probably the greatest change is in our education, and I like where I see it going.
I hope that what never changes is the family connections in Westerly.
Probably just the amount of traffic that we have now. Summertime is much greater than it used to be because everyone's finding out what a beautiful place Mccormick and Watch Hill and Weekapaug and the whole town of Westerly is to come visit. So I think the traffic is one of the biggest things. And when you hear people complaining about it, you have to say, listen, it's only for 3 months a year, and without our tourism, we would not be as fortunate as we are to live in this great town of Westerly.
When I first came here, we had difficulty just walking on the street, Pierce Street, because there were drugs and all these kinds of things. And it's beautiful now. There's housing, people are flower boxes out and all of this stuff. That's the biggest change, and it's wonderful.
If I could change one thing about Wesley, I'd have the streets all redone.
Westerly has not lost its charm and its character. I mean, I haven't been here for 75 or whatever years I've been here. If I thought it had changed a lot, I would have moved on. Westerly really is pretty much the same.
Oh, I think it's great. The only problem now is maybe a little too much traffic. We got to control the traffic.
What I hope never changes about Westerly is the feeling of being near the sea, being on the sea in the ocean sense, being on the river, which is a dynamic, fun, active river. I would hate to see those access points change.
What I hope that doesn't change is its small townness.
I hope Westerly stays as it is. It doesn't change. Again, the structures make the town as well. Downtown is just a beautiful place. We have the YMCA. We have a library that you can't compare to anything. We have a park. That's just the most beautiful Victorian park. Where do you find anything like that? So I think the integrity of the structural and the kind of people that settle here are just wonderful.
A major event that influenced life in Westerly was the hurricane of 1938.
The biggest challenge that ever happened to Westerly was the 1938 hurricane.
We also suffered some terrible, terrible casualties with people being killed in that hurricane.
A lot of lives were lost. My mother was amazing that she made it through it. But I would say that the 38 hurricane was a real traumatic wake-up for our town.
Well, the beach got rebuilt, and it's a wonderful place to go.
To bring back what we had at Watch Hill and Mccormick and Weekapaug was just a fantastic achievement.
Every one of the storms that we've had create excessive damage, but damn it, within a very short time, right back again.
Before Hurricane Carol, my dad owned a little cottage right about where the State Beach Pavilion is now. And Hurricane Carol took that little cottage and washed it across the pond. It was taken out of the pond and put back on Lawton Street down in Mccormick, and it's still there.
After Superstorm Sandy, it came together so quickly that just meant that there's so many people that volunteered and gave of themselves to get that beach back to where it was. And now, in my estimation, the beach is probably the best on the East Coast as far as I'm concerned.
The biggest challenge that Westerly has ever faced is to love one another, because it is difficult to love someone that doesn't love you back.
I think the challenge is the problem, same problem other people have, drugs and substance abuse. The first thing I did was get on the substance abuse task force in 1980 when I first came here, because that was a challenge then. It's still a challenge then, and even more so today.
The person I admire the most and influenced me the most is my cousin Tom Liguori. At 19 years old, fighting in Italy, lost his leg. And when he came home, he never took it out on anybody, and he was always happy, and he worked all his life after that.
The person that I was most impressed by and was influenced by was Dick Kenickie. I thought he was the most fair-minded person that I ever knew, whether it was Watch Hill or Westerly or whatever. Dick Kenickie was just plain a fair guy.
The United Builders. When I built the Blue Star Motel, the bank wouldn't give me no money. United Builders, the father, told me I could have everything I wanted. He says, no, you build the building, you get it open, you go to the bank. Now they got something to look at. 4 days I had the loan paid everybody off.
The person that inspired me the most is Adrian Pelchat, because we met and we had the same dream for Westerly and same dream for the North End. And he tells me every time, he says, Reverend McClure, he says, the one thing I will never forget is when we got together, you said, you take care of the crime, I'll take care of the people. And that's the way we've been. And to this day, we're so close as friends. And we still have the same dream, believe it or not.
My mother-in-law was a phenomenal woman. She raised 7 wonderful children, and she was an inspiration because she just never stopped doing anything for anybody in the community. It didn't matter. She was there to help out Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, church events, and whatever have you. And she's the one that inspired me to get involved with Brownies, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, church events, and anything. So I have to say that I modeled myself after her.
The Westerly resident that has influenced my life was my Aunt Nikki Agnelli and my cousin Dottie Walsh. And both of them have led a great life in Westerly. My Aunt Nikki was a part of everything that went on in Westerly, and if she wasn't, she'd make sure she was. And she was a very giving person throughout her life, and I hope I remain that way.
Well, I really want to thank my former pastor, Father Greg, at church. He was a wonderful person, influenced my life. The other person that changed my life completely is Lisa Kenickie from the Chamber of Commerce. I spent many years there, did so many exciting things while I was involved with the Chamber. It was a life-changing experience.
Mr. Reel, who owned Reel's grocery store across from where the community chorus is, and the other is Harold Edmond, who started the Westerly Credit Union.
The person that influenced me the most, I believe, would be Quentin DeSimone. And we were not always on the same page, but I respected him, I watched, I listened to everything he said. All the years he was on the finance board. And in the end, we ended up running together on the same team, winning together, and we're friends.
I would have to say the person that inspired me the most is my father. My dad was a state representative for 18 years. Matter of fact, from the year I was born to the year I graduated high school. He was also a big union man in the town and the country and New England. And he was always there to help people whenever he could. And that's my biggest thing about what I do now, is to be able to help people.
Well, personally, if I could go back in time, I think I would have done a different job in terms of my service in the Navy. I think I kind of let the Navy off easy by agreeing to take a medical disability. I'd rather have stayed in the Navy, and I wish I had been more aggressive about making that happen.
One of the fun times of my life that I'd like to go back to is that balcony and that very first kiss up in the back of the balcony. The United Theater was one of our spots where our young people used to go every Saturday. And that memory of when I was standing there and I looked up and saw that balcony, it just flashed back and said, wow, those were the days.
If I could turn back time, the age I would go back to would be what I am right now, and that's 79.
I wouldn't do anything different. I mean, I've just lived a wonderful life, and the times are different. I remember being in the breadline at 4 years old, in the Depression. So I love all of that. I've learned from all of that. I've grown from all of that. And I don't know if there's any time I would go back to, really.
I'm not quite sure what age I would be, but it would be when I finally got my children brought up and out of the house, and I could begin to travel, which is what I did big time. That, to me, was glorious.
I'd say that if I could go back in time, I would say when I met my wife back in 1952, because we had a lot of good memories, we did a lot of good things, and we raised 3 children and 6 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren.
If I could change anything or go back in time, I wouldn't change anything in my personal life. Things have been really, really great for me. I would like to go back to the time when my husband was here. But other than that, I really wouldn't change anything. I have a great family, friends. Life is great.
I think every age has its own beauty. I don't think I would go back in time. I have wonderful memories.
Personally, my life, I would not want to change a thing, but if I could take this world today and put it back to, say, 1945 or the early 40s, I know there was a war going on, but the country was a united, solid bloc.
If I could go back in time, I would have to go back to the 50s because I was very fortunate to grow up during that time when rock and roll, that I consider rock and roll, started in 1954 and went for, I would say, until the British invaded us and when the Beatles got here in '64.
My advice would be for the young people to utilize the advances in technology, but don't let it control your life. You don't have to speak in a cell phone to have a conversation with your friends every day. You can speak face to face. Utilize the technology that's available and use it for its most significant purposes.
My advice to all the young people today is to be honest and tell the truth. And that's the main thing. I think that's the greatest thing there is to be, because I've lived in this town 75 years, and I don't think there's one person who could say anything bad about me.
My advice to the youth today is to try to continue doing good for our community, working hard, and having a good time.
I have advice for the youth of Westerly, that they know one another and love one another.
My advice for the younger generation would be my usual advice. Go away, learn, get involved, and then come home.
My advice to the younger generation in town is appreciate what you have. appreciate the town itself, appreciate your family, appreciate your friends, because they won't be there forever.
My advice to the youth in this town is to drink less, accept more blame for your actions, and be patient, and kind, and loving, and understanding. I think I was once. I hope I still am.
Well, young people living in town, when you're in school, do your work. Do your work. Don't pay attention to all the fads that are going on. Put your telephone away. Study, because there's so many jobs that are changing, and you want to be ready to get into those jobs.
The advice I have, and I think is very important, is to know your history. Because young people do not know their history. They should know their history, and not even their own history, but the history of other people. So they can really begin to be knowledgeable about others and not just themselves, you know. And it allows them to reach out and broaden their horizons.
My advice is to decide on a course of what you want to do with your life. You want to be an engineer, you want to be a carpenter, or whatever you want, and start early. And you have to stick to it. And when you get to school, if there's anything that pertains to that, you take that course and you do the best you can with it. And in the long run, it's gonna pay you back.
My advice for the youth of Wesley is to stay in school, and if you don't go to college, take up a trade.
My advice to the youth would be to stay close to your family, stay close to your church and your friends. Stay out of trouble.
My advice to the youth is to go do your dream and then come home and share it with us. Settle here.
As I agree with Betty, live your dream.
My advice for the youth of Westerly is to appreciate what they have in their town, and I would strongly recommend that they go back and do research as to why the town is the way it is today. Take an interest in the people from centuries ago who worked hard to make us what we are today.
My advice to Westerly's youth is stay away from drugs. We have in the country, in the world, an opioid epidemic that is out of control, and Westerly is in that group. We need to get rid of that. We've got to stop it, because too many young lives are being lost because of overdoses.
My life motto is to make a difference, and that's it. That's all. Just to make a difference in people's lives.
My life motto is no guts, no glory. Period.
Well, my life motto would be to stay close to God. Try to be a good person as you can. I tell that to my children also. Be as kind as you can and lead a good life.
For the last 3 years, it was thank you, Lord, for another day while I was doing cancer treatment. But other than that,
wake up every morning.
Life is fun, and without fun, there is no life. And my other newest thing is keep it moving, because that's what I want to do. I want to keep it moving as long as I can.
Be it good or bad, this too shall pass.
If I go tomorrow, I have no regrets. None.